Alright, I figured since I have the place listed, I would take a little bit of video and footage of the man cave garage as it sits, because probably not going to get a chance. Anyways, so the short stats, it's a 20 by 21 or 22 foot garage, and I originally had shelving all along both side walls, as most of you guys will do, with workbenches on the side, but having 16 feet of area to work on cars, having doors open, etc. Got old pretty quick. So a couple years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, I started and I took down all my shelving, and then I put up this stuff, trying to avoid the glare here. So overhead shelves, they're supported in the center by those black lines you see on the wall, and up there it's 1x1 square tubing. The stringers that go across are 2x1 tubing. Put some angle iron on both sides so that the shelves have a spot to sit in. I got them on this side too. You can see here just some angle iron. I welded to that stuff, and then if you look up here, here's a brace there, triangulating the weight so that I didn't have anything interfering in my headspace. I'm 6'2". This stuff sits about 6'5", 6'6" above the ground, and when I'm in work boots, I don't get smashed in the head. So a couple years after I built that, I said, well, I need to get this side done because it was still the old style, and I had recovered some steel walls from a company. So for this lower shelf here, as you can see, all these silver things are these shelves here are actually made out of steel. So this beam here is 2 inches by 3 inches, string in the middle, and then some in the back, and then where my lift sits, in case it's not obvious, I have a lift. I didn't want to anchor the feet into the floor because when you sell a house in Canada, if it's bolted down, it's part of the house. So plus I didn't like the idea of bolting stuff to the floor. Anyways, so I braced them on the upper. So I'm going to try to get you guys up to see what it looks like. So just ran some brackets there, made a little, almost like a strut tower, and then the plate bolts to the top and keeps the lift in place. So while I was doing that, I had taken down, there was just your standard, let me back up here, just your standard wooden steps, construction grade stuff with the vertical pickets here. And I decided I wanted to build some big tables for welding and stuff, so I couldn't have that because there was too many supporting beams. There was one basically there, and then I had a table over here, or a bench over here, and it had a leg that came down. So when you looked in the garage, all you'd see was vertical support beams. So using that same steel that I'd salvaged, I built basically a big super heavy shelf, and built some uprights there. And apart from where it's anchored on the wall over there, that mast there is what keeps it up. And you could probably park a truck on there. I way overbuilt the damn thing. Take you around here. So I used to have this made out of wood, but I decided I needed to make it out of steel because it's pretty easy to get to that overhead shelving when you've got the lift up in the air and you've got that as a step, basically. So just left a step here. I had grand plans to build a fold down stairs that would just fold up and act as the kind of separator. Didn't happen. Maybe in a future garage. So what I do now is just take the steps, get them up there, and then I'm up on that platform. So it's built to the same stuff. It sits over there on that post. This part here where my foot is supported by an upright, and then it's anchored into the wall over here. So try and do this carefully. Step onto the lift, walk around. There's the far side of the shelving. Right, little heater, big ass ladder, stuff like that. The garage, since like after I got the lift, I couldn't exactly put it up with a car on the lift, or I couldn't open the garage door with the car on the lift, because where it would basically turn here and turn in on the tracks would run into the back of the car, which is on these rails. So all I did was did a lot of calculating and mathematical stuff, and then cut just a small section out of there, so that instead of the garage rail sitting like that, it would tip up like this, and the door tracks up like that, and then the door opener opens up like that. I didn't have to do too much to that because it was actually relatively simple. The hardest thing was dealing with that, and then I just cranked up the tension on the tensioner. Yeah, back to where I was at. Anyways, I didn't have enough money to do like a roll-up door, so that's what I did. Works pretty good. I have a video on YouTube of it going up and down. It's like 25 below it right now, so Celsius. Anyways, it's cold. Not gonna do that. So yeah, here's the view from up top. I'll walk over by here. So here's my compressor, which no, I'll get back to that. I split the compressor. Let's talk about something. Oh, right, lighting. So, I found when the car was on the lift here that I ran out of light, because the only light that was shining was that CFL that's over there. And there wasn't any lights in this thing, so, and this neon light here wasn't bright enough. So I got some of those case of the 15 pack there of LED lights from eBay. It's one of those Chinese manufactured, distributed out of San Diego sellers. Anyways, there's 3 chained back to back, so you can see the little pigtail there plugging it in. Pigs runs into that one, so there's light there, and then this one here, and they throw a hell of a lot of light. That glare you saw earlier was actually from those lights. It makes it impossible to take pictures and video anything in here, so that's that. Yeah, anyways, for any of you guys wanting storage, I strongly recommend this. It's about $300 for the steel to make those risers, and they just sit on the curb wall. I made feet. They sit on the curb wall. I've got a half wall or a stub wall, whatever you want to call it, down here, and that little that post kind of sits on a foot that's right there. So there's about, I think, $300 in total to make them both. The angle iron honestly was the most expensive stuff. The square tubing was actually relatively cheap. But if I ever had a small garage again, which I don't ever plan on having, this is the way to go. Gives you an extra 4 feet in your garage, because I build my benches 2 feet wide. So 2 foot wide bench on one side, 2 foot wide bench on the other side, lose 4 feet. 16 foot wide garage is no fun when you have 2 cars and a car habit. Okay. Yeah, I'll show you those feet here. There, see, those are the feet. I had to kind of do a sort of notch in the steel because the electrical had been run beforehand, so couldn't get it in there, so I just went around it. 240 there for welder plug, whatever. I was planning on putting a plug underneath there for the lift. Right now it just plugs in here and it shares duty with my other welders. 2 circuits. Oh yeah, the compressor. So the compressor, let's get you where you can see it. So that was an exercise in environmental health and safety violations, getting it up there, because as you can see, the lift platform stops there, and a good 30 some odd inches higher is where the tank had to go. I cut the top off my compressor The motor actually is remote, sitting there, and as you can see, there's some plumbing coming down the wall, and I'm just going to get some flex hose or some flex line. Oh, where's my finger? And then run it from around back here where it terminates up into there. Actually, you can see the little spout where it's going to go. Anyways, so yeah, I had it stacked up on some chairs and some lumber and some this and that, and this cross beam was off, and I had a very strong escape plan as to how I would let the tank hit the floor, and I would dive to safety somewhere else. Anyways, now you can see this light here. There's those LED strips. Pretty good. What I also wanted to do, but probably won't get to do it until I move to new places, I wanted to put magnetic backing on some of those LED strips and run a series of them down here so that I had the light under the lift, because even here you can see it's a little shady compared to there. So I was going to do that and then feed the wire down here to exit. Like, probably the wiring would be tight in here and exit one of these holes that are here like this, so that as the lift rose and fell, it wouldn't get in the way. This is a future plan here. You see this opening here. I'm actually going to put a big shelf in there. I've got some old server rack rail kits, like 20 or 30 of them. So I'm going to put it in there, put a big shelf, maybe even think of double extension. Power strap. The bench set usually is never visible because there's so much crap on it. Oh yeah, those little shelves there that hold all the oil and stuff. You guys, if you don't have some of that, build it. Just some 2x4s with some 8-inch wide or 6-inch wide strips of OSB doubled up, and then those little braces you see there, just little 2x4 triangles. Painted them up. Took me probably an afternoon. It was good to go. Liked it so much I'm doing it here. I don't know how long the house is going to take to sell, so I'm going to use it as my shop. In the meantime, as you can see by all the cars and stuff, I'm actually living elsewhere. But yeah, that's the shop. Hope you guys enjoy.